what I'm trying to teach you is the understanding that problems are actually just as simple as they seem. You don't need an aim coach. If I'm being completely serious, you don't need an aim coach. What you need is the confidence in yourself to say, I have a problem with this, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. I think it's probably the most concise help that I've had.
Let's go a little faster. I want to see you miss a little bit. Do you see how you're performing basically just the exact same, but you're moving way faster now?
Yeah.
Can you go faster?
Try.
Yeah, let's see. How much faster you're moving, but you're still performing the same. So I think a lot of your problem is you're actually a lot better than you think you are. You're just not practicing correctly. Because right now, you're already performing significantly above average than most other people I would coach. So already you're way faster than them, your accuracy is way higher. I think your main problem right now is you lack the confidence to make mistakes. If I had to guess, I would assume that a lot of the time when you're playing Kovacs and you're practicing, that you will start underperforming to how you would usually do, and you would reset and then keep trying until you're at least performing to your average. And that's not really what we want. If we are performing a lot worse than we usually do, that means we're making more mistakes. And if we're making more mistakes, we're obviously going to be creating more scenarios where we can fix those things. So going forward, I want your general playstyle when you're playing any scenario realistically is I want you to push yourself beyond that and don't get discouraged when you're making mistakes, because that's what you want to see. So for example, say your overflicks are really bad, you would then obviously want to induce more overflicking so that you can adapt and adjust to the feeling of deliberately making yourself not overflick anymore, so you would give yourself more chances to fix it. But right now, you're not pushing yourself hard enough to induce too many mistakes, so your improvement is slower. So let's play the next scenario. I think it should be a tracking one, and I do want to see your tracking because I think you're a Valorant player, right?
Yeah. But I do work on tracking because I'd rather have well-rounded aim than solely solely flicking.
Okay, this was really, really good. We actually learned quite a lot from this. So something you might realize what you're doing is when you're tracking the bot, you might realize your crosser's kind of shaking inside the bot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you're not matching the speed well. And something we have to understand is if you're playing, let's say you're playing static, just because you're playing static doesn't mean that's the only thing you're fixing. So, for example, say you have very, very bad aim in Valorant, right? Obviously, you probably don't, but let's say you do. A lot of your issues can be boiled down to you not practicing your tracking, which is why a lot of Valorant players will have really good static scores, but their aim is still horrible because they don't have the ability to do the things universally. So right now, I think currently your biggest issue by far is your reactivity is just not very good. So I want you to understand why that is and how to diagnose that yourself, right? So when you're playing smooth bot and you're following the bot, you see that your aim is very shaky. But I don't think that's the actual problem. So you do have floaty aim, and it's because you're not pushing your speed enough, which is fine. But this problem is more likely to be that you aren't pacing the bot very well, and your reactivity is just not very good. So when you're following the bot, what's happening is you're speeding up to try and catch it, and then once you do catch it, you're slowing down to try and match the pace, and you're struggling to actually find that pace of the bot. And a lot of people would say, just keep playing smooth bot then, right? That's the problem, is you're not playing smooth bot enough. But because that's not the actual problem, it's not your smoothness is fine. The problem is your reactivity is not good. So you would then play reactivity scenarios, and you would find yourself being able to stick your crosshair on smooth bots easier. So although you're practicing a reactive scenario, your aim in smooth tracking actually gets better. Okay, see, we're running into a lot of the trouble I said we would, right? You see how you're struggling a lot in reactive?
Yeah.
So how would you, if you had to, say you were trying to teach yourself to get better, just in general, how would you diagnose and fix the problem you're having right now?
Honestly, I think I would still spam like this scenario and just try to get better
Okay.
at it. Which,
And a
like,
lot of players would. So, our reactive isn't very good, and it's leading to our smoothness being bad. And another thing the reactive will fix is this kind of floaty aim we'll have. So, if we played more reactive, we'd obviously be forced into those kind of snappier lines more often. So, do you see how playing this reactive scenario would not only fix your tracking and smooth tracking, it would also help to fix an issue in your static clicking or your dynamic clicking as well.
Yeah, but
So,
I think one of my issues is overactive aim at the same time, like in game.
okay.
I don't really know why that translates when I'm like extremely floaty here.
Okay, so overactive, you mean you're flicking your crosshair around too much, or?
Overactive, flicking crosshair too much, and like sometimes I'll have the shot and then just flick away because I think I don't or something. Shit.
Did you see any problems in your aim that were super obvious to you?
Like over flicking, and I noticed that like crosshair placement's like very important in Valorant, and I felt like my line like wasn't really horizontal. It kept like going up and down.
Uh-huh. Is there anything else?
I think it's still floaty.
It's still a little floaty, but the main problem I'm seeing is your aim is, when you're landing on targets, you're bouncing. So if you flick to a target, you might realize that you land on them, start shooting, and then flick off of them and back onto them again. So your aim is bouncing on people. And the reason that's happening is your stopping power isn't very good. So if we wanted to be able to see that issue for ourselves and go, okay, that's a problem I have, you're going to play the scenario and you're going to be actively focusing on one thing that you realize you were making a mistake with. So let's say that bouncing part, right? We don't like the bounce because the stopping power is not very good. So we would then play the scenario again, focusing on deliberately making sure that we have that bounce as little as possible. We either lessen how bouncy it is, or we try and get rid of it completely. So play through the scenario again. We're not going to focus on going really fast or accuracy or anything. We're just focusing on flicking to a target and trying to not have that bounce that happens when you land on your target. Okay, so do we... It's actually really good. So you see how our score is lower, but we actually played so much better. Way cleaner. Fundamentally, way better. You actually did really well. So obviously you're not practicing the scenario and your target switching isn't incredible, so obviously you're not going to be performing amazingly. But from first time to second time, your improvement was unreal. And it all came from understanding a problem. We tried, we saw an issue that happened, and then we focused on trying to eliminate the problem. And then over time, that would naturally stop happening as much, and then you could dedicate more focus to fixing a different problem. So another problem would be, let's say your floaty aim, right? We'd want to fix that because that's kind of bad. So something we would do to fix that is we're going to play some static scenarios. So you can go back to the first static one we played. It was like 1 wall, 6 targets small or something. We would go back to that, and we've learned that the bounce is really bad. So we want to avoid the bounce, but we also know that we need to go faster because we're not pushing ourselves enough. So our main focus here would be determining which one is more important. Is the stopping power more important, or is the speed more important? Now, I want you to decide. Since you're the one practicing, I want you to go, okay, is my stopping power really good, or is it really bad, or is my speed more important? I want you to pick which one you're going to focus on while you're practicing here.
I think stopping power.
Sure, go ahead. You can practice your stopping power then.
And stopping power is like when you're not over flicking or under flicking.
So stopping power is, it's not to do with over flicking and under flicking. Stopping power is when If you flick, it's how quickly your crosshair can come to a complete stop. So, like I said, you know when you were playing the target switching scenario a second ago? How I said your crosshair is bouncy? That's because of poor stopping power. You can't stop your mouse as fast as or as hard as you're trying to, so you're getting that kind of bounce. So that would be improving stopping power. Now, we don't need to be super accurate to, improve our stopping power. As long as we're flicking and stopping really well, our accuracy isn't important. Okay, can you go faster? How fast can you go? Let's not focus on score. I want you to flick as fast as you can. I want to see your flicks as fast as you can go. So you see you majorly slowed down to try and fix the fact that you were going really fast? Okay, so we've realized you cannot go as fast as possible. But you can go way faster than you were before. Like, when you were just playing, you were fairly slow. But now, when you pushed your speed a little bit, you were going significantly faster. But although you were missing slightly more, you were working on that stopping power and that speed. So what we have to realize is, when we're playing these scenarios, we're not going, okay, my score is 20 lower than my high score or whatever, that means I'm getting worse. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to actually improve a fundamental problem that we have in our aim. So, your stopping power and your speed right now are your main issues. So, we would want to build a playlist that would focus on those aspects, where the goal isn't to see how high you can score on them, but to really focus on improving those aspects about your aim. And then obviously once they have improved, you would run through the diagnosis playlist again. You would say, okay, what am I having troubles with? Then you would focus on that again, right? Generally, if I was going for a score, I would obviously just be clicking between them as fast as I could, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to improve. So what we want to do is we want to go, okay, I want this target here, say, right? You would snap. We aren't focusing on moving to other targets quickly. You see how when I flick, I stop for a second? I just take a little second afterwards, right? We want that little snap, right? Because what we're doing right now is we're having that same floaty aim problem where we're going, we're not actually stopping anytime. We're just kind of moving our crosshair between them, and we're clicking as we pass over them, right? And I'm not really sure why we're doing that. I think it is probably a stopping power problem as well. But the next time you play one wall, 6 target, or generally, the rule for static is, if we're flicking to a target, we need to actually have purpose when we're flicking to it. So if we wanted this target here, if you were to aim, go over this, and just click while you're passing, it doesn't actually make you any better. We need to aim with intention. We want to actively be snapping to the target, okay? Because that's what we want to hit. But when you're just kind of bouncing between them, not really trying to go for specific targets, then you end up getting in places like you are now, where your improvement, it just isn't happening. So I'm wanting you to play it again, but I want you to have more intention on the target you're actually aiming at. So you're going to flick, you're going to snap, you'll land on your target, you'll shoot, you'll realize you hit your target, or if you missed, you'll correct. Then once you've actively realized you've hit your target, you're going to go to the next one. So it's flick, 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 right? We want intention behind our aim, not what you were just doing, right?
Okay.
Okay, pause for a second. I want to try something. Go to the settings. We're going to try and change your sensitivity. Your aim looks super uncomfortable. So you play 0.427. I don't really know how Valorant Sense works all that much. Let's go 0.5, which is probably crazy fast in comparison to what you're on now. But I just want to see on a faster sense if you're having the same issues or if your sensitivity is actually a problem for you. Because right now it looks like you're super uncomfortable when you're aiming.
I used to run a much higher sense. I've been trying to reduce it over time to fit the game I'm playing.
Generally, when you're changing sense, you just want to change it to whatever you want to change it to. You don't want to gradually fall, because not really how it works. You would want to go, if I'm on 0 0.6 or whatever, and you would go, I want to play 0.4, you would just play 0.4. You wouldn't go 0.55, 0.5, or whatever you were doing, right? Because at that point, you're dropping it just too slowly, and it's just not going to work, right? The human body is built to adapt. So if you were to make the big jump, it's actually totally fine. It would probably help your aim as well. Okay, you look so much better on a faster sense. Did you feel more comfortable on that sense, or did that feel worse?
I don't know. I just felt a bit out of control.
You felt okay. So a lot of your problems are already gone for the most part. So what it looked like is when you were on a lower sense, you just kind of looked like you didn't feel the sense. You didn't know it. And that's why you were super floaty, is because you didn't really know how fast or slow it would be, right? You're not like consistent on it, or you just generally were uncomfortable on it. But on this faster sense, you're so much better. You're snappier, you're faster, your lines are way smoother. Your floaty aim is almost entirely gone. So before, you were doing that thing where as you were kind of tracking or flicking to targets, your aim was kind of like wavy, or like moving up and down or left or right, depending on the way you were flicking. And it didn't really just have like a straight line. When you're on a faster sense, you were infinitely better. Your lines were actually relatively straight for how well you were doing. So already, I would say whoever told you to play on the sense was very wrong, because you're absolutely not comfortable on the sense you were playing on before, or at least you didn't look very comfortable on it. Is when you were playing on a lower sense, you were just doing better because it was easier, and you're actually just super uncomfortable all the time. The higher sense is way better. You want to keep the higher sense, absolutely. Whether you want to higher than it is now or lower than it is now is fine. But in general, a higher sense for you seems way better.
It's been a while since I've played on a higher sense like that, but I used to run like pretty high senses.
Yes, I run pretty high sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you feel it or realize it. You are so much better on this sense. You are so much better. You're not much faster than you were, but you're so much more in control. That floatiness is almost entirely gone, and your snappiness is actually not bad. Okay.
I don't think it doesn't really feel like it, funnily enough.
It doesn't feel like it? Okay. I want to explain that, because that's something that happens a lot. There's this thing with improving where you have a certain standard, right? Let's say you're always hitting, like on this scenario, let's say you're always hitting 10k. You might do something that makes you better, so you're fundamentally improved. Let's say you're a little faster, but your score might go down. What a lot of players will do is they'll go, my score is going down, therefore I'm doing something wrong, and if I'm doing something wrong, then I want to go back to the old way because the old way was better. But that is not right. Your score is going down because you're getting better and you're trying to incorporate your new skill. Generally speaking, it's not always the case, but usually it is. What will happen is, let's say your speed is very bad and you go, I really need good speed. So you practice your speed over and over again. Then when you play this scenario again, you might be way faster, but you're really inaccurate. And you go, okay, well, the speed wasn't the problem then because my inaccuracy is the problem now. And you would no longer focus on your speed, which is inherently wrong. Your initial diagnosis of the speed being the problem was correct. You just hadn't fully ingrained it into your aim yet for you to be able to do really well. It's the same way why in, like, say, like Valorant, someone might go, okay, I'm not very good at one thing, and then when they get really, really good at doing that thing, they might derank while they're practicing it and go, I feel like I'm getting worse from doing this one thing, which isn't actually true. I'm not really sure what the actual term is for it, but what's happening is, since you're putting all of your focus into doing that one thing, you're losing focus in other areas, which means you're lacking in other areas, and you're not doing as well. But once you've learned to do that and incorporate it into whatever it is it may be, let's say you're throwing like flashes or whatever in Valorant, and you're just like every scenario you can, you're trying to flash something, and you're losing a lot of fights because of it. Generally, over time, you would get really good at flashing, and then you would go, okay, now I can start to evaluate when I need to use my flashes, because my flashes are really good now, because you've improved them. And then you'll rocket in elo, and you'll go way, way higher. But a lot of people give up before they have that ability to put it into what they're doing, so they'll end up quitting too soon and going back to their old ways and staying bad. So something we have to understand is, when we're getting better, our scores are going to get worse, generally speaking, for that reason, because you're applying more focus to the thing you're trying to improve on, and less to your general aim, right? So here, what we're doing is, our speed was great, our snappiness in general was great, we obviously still have some problems, but I want you to try and diagnose your own issue. Play the scenario again, but I want you to really, don't focus on, is my stopping power really good, is my speed really good? I want you to look at your aim, push yourself beyond your comfort zone, so flick faster or try and be more accurate than you usually are. Then I want you to go, okay, what did I do wrong? What did you do badly? Because I want you to learn how to fix your own problems, right? Because a lot of things aim coaches will do is they'll go, wow, your static aim is bad. I'm going to tell you how to do static well. You'll do static well, you'll get good at it, and then you'll start running into the same problem where you don't know how to get better. So you go, I need another aim coach. That's not what I want to do. I want you to go, I can fix my own problem. So let's play the scenario one more time, and I want you to diagnose your own issue.
I didn't like how massively I would overflick.
Okay, the
Like,
overflicking. Do you see
It's like-
anything else, or is that it?
I would that, and like, I feel like some of my transitional flicks were like, I was going from like one wall to another, and like looking for targets was really slow.
Okay, good. Is that all you saw that was wrong, or was they the general things or the most important things?
It's really the general things that I noticed. I also have that same like issue where if I'm like transitioning from like same like targets on the same level, my crosshair keeps going like up and down. It's not really still in the center.
Okay. That's good. You found a lot of your issues. So I found that your 180s are bad. So when you're turning, when you're trying to turn, your turns are slow and inaccurate, and it's got that floatiness to it. So if we wanted to fix your 180s, how do you think we would do that?
Well, before I would like hard focus them through like different scenarios, but I'm not really sure how to do it.
Okay, that's fine. Let's actually learn how we're going to diagnose our own problem and fix our own problem. So our 180s are bad. So obviously the solution to this would be to get better at doing them. Well, how do we get better at doing them? Okay, so we want to do them more often. So in this scenario, you'll see that you're hurting a lot with those 180s and those 90s, where you're struggling to do those big flicks and turn. Now, the accuracy of the turn isn't super important right now. It will be in the future when you get good at them. But if we wanted to fix our 180s, the way we would do it is we would just do more 180s, okay? It's genuinely that simple. So, same with our speed. If we're too slow, say we're very slow, we'd go, we're pretty slow. We would deliberately go faster. And that's it. What I'm trying to teach you is the understanding that problems are actually just as simple as they seem. If you're inaccurate, you would focus accuracy. Okay, well, what is accuracy? Okay, it's your ability to flick onto a target and land on them. Sure, but then precision comes in. Like, what is precision then? Well, it's a similar thing, but it's more based on landing directly in the middle of your target, whereas accuracy is just landing on your target or near your target in general. So, let's say we've got bad accuracy and we want to fix that. It is genuinely as simple as going, let's play some scenarios where my accuracy is more important, and we're going to focus on improving our accuracy. Now, obviously, there's a little bit more to it, and there's a little bit more variation, and there's more variables, because maybe, like earlier, when you were playing smooth tracking, you were going, my smooth tracking is kind of not very good, right? And then you would go, okay, if my smooth tracking isn't good, then I need to play more smooth tracking. But it's not about that, because it was actually your reactivity that was the problem, not your smooth tracking. So the way you would notice a problem like that is you would look at exactly what's happening. So you're tracking the actual bot in smooth tracking, and your crosshair is like bouncing around in the target. You would say, well, why is that happening? Okay, so let's say you thought the reason was that your smooth tracking was bad. If you then hard focus smooth tracking, you would get good smooth tracking. But then you would run into scenarios where your reactivity in general is just not very good, or you have that bouncy thing in target movement. The only way to notice that is to have the understanding that that is a possible problem. And that's typically why people would get aim coaching, is they would go, my smooth tracking sucks, I've been practicing it for years, it's not getting better. Then the aim coach will go, okay, because that's not actually the problem, right? You would have to understand what your problem is. And to find problems like that, it is generally just play the scenario, whatever it may be, like play one you have fun with, or play one that's part of your playlist or whatever, and then push yourself beyond your limit, whether it be your speed, your accuracy, something like that. Then you would go, okay, well then what did I do wrong? What was bad about it? And you're not gonna get every problem, right? For example, when you were doing this scenario, you were under flicking a lot, your stopping power wasn't great, you were over flicking, you were kind of slow, your 180s weren't great, but that's not the point. The point is, you played it, you said, okay, what's my problem? My problem is my overflicks are bad. So then you would play it again until your overflicks improved. You would just go, okay, I need to deliberately practice my overflicking. So that's what you would do. And then when your overflicking got better, the other problems would become more noticeable, and you would fix them over time, right? So I don't want to be the coach that goes, your target switching is bad, I'm going to give you a target switching playlist, do this all day, and then you do it and you come back and go, I'm not getting better, and then I charge you for another session. That's not the point. I want you to be able to play on your own and diagnose your own problem. And you did pretty well there. You said your target acquisition wasn't great. It's not. So how do we fix that? Well, we're going to deliberately be doing more 180s and more 90s. Okay, and I can give you an example of exactly how we would do it, right? I'm going to flick 180. And I found him. That's it. So we're just going to deliberately look for those 180s constantly. Right? We just keep flicking 180, then we flick 90, 180, 180, then we 180 again. There's no one here. We get a 90, then we'd 180 again, right? And that's how we would fix that problem. But it comes with understanding that problem first. Because when I'm here, I can correct for this guy, and then I can correct to this target, correct to this target, and if I don't see anything, I 180 again, and I'm on another target, right? That's the point, and that's what I'm trying to teach you, is that you don't need an aim coach. If I'm being completely serious, you don't need an aim coach. What you need is the confidence in yourself to say, I have a problem with this, I'm going to fix it, okay? And you may not know how to fix it, right? And that's okay, but then you would get to trial and error, right? So I'm just saying now, no one needs an aim coach. You do not need an aim coach. Being deadly serious. You need the confidence to diagnose your own issue without thinking you'll be wrong. Because even if you're diagnosing a wrong problem that's not a fundamental issue, you're still going to be improving in an area. And as you get better over time, you're going to be able to see those things or those problems more easily.
Yeah. I think it's probably the most concise help that I've had.
I'm glad. Obviously.
Is it okay
What? Sorry, go on.
Is it okay if I still DM you questions?
Of course. So the thing is with me is I don't really like the idea of, I mean, obviously to a degree, coaching or improvement being behind a paywall, obviously that seems a little counterproductive because I'm obviously charging you for this, but in general, I want people to go, okay, I've done something, I've found an issue, I've been trying to fix it. I don't really know why I'm not getting better. And then going, I don't really want to spend X amount of money getting an aim coach to fix this problem, right? So I've said for years now, if you individual coaching sessions will cost money, like in a call, more direct, more kind of fix your issues. So this was more in the sense of I want you to be able to do it yourself. And then if you had issues in the future with coaching, it would be a little bit about that, but mostly about your actual problems and fixing them. But the first session for me is always, you don't actually need me to help you. You can help yourself. And you definitely can. So yeah, don't worry about messaging me on Discord about things. I'll always answer. Absolutely. I have no problem with that.
Right, awesome.
Nice. I had fun, dude.
Thanks.
Nice.
I just appreciate like aim coaches that don't treat me weirdly, because I find that like sometimes when people
What do you
are
mean
in
treat you
call-out,
weirdly? I get
they
there's
just
I will
treat
say people in the AIM community, some of them are like mega weird.
down
So-
bad. I get like treated like, oh, you know, it's cute that you're trying to like learn how to aim. And I'm like,
that's super weird. Yeah, that's super
I was like,
weird.
okay, buddy, it's fine. I mean, I don't know. You learn to deal with it a lot in Val.